Welcome friends, at this time we'll talk about stored procedures again, but we'll add one bit of complexity called a parameter. So let me make a note here. Stored procedures, in other words, that can accept values and use them in some fashion inside the body of the procedure. Keep in mind that this is often called as follows, a parametrized stored procedure, like that. So the parameter is like a little placeholder. Through it, you pass values into the body of the procedure. And if you think about what we did previously in ASP, same concept. Everything is connected always. Okay, so with that in place, let's take a look here. I'm going to say the following. Create a procedure. And I'm going to say this one is called get order summary. With this one, we want to be able to enter a specific order number when we call it. So to do that, I am going to use a parameter. That's how I know. I want to feed a value into it. So I indicate that by typing that symbol, which if you think about it, we saw previously in ASP.NET. Remember, all of this is beautifully connected. And then I will say here, sales order ID. So you've got at, that symbol as a requirement of the basic definition of things. And then you've got the field, sales order ID, because we want to search through that field. And I'm going to say here int. The int is short for the data type of the field. So if you go into this tables folder, and if you go back into sales.order detail, and you expand the columns node, remember we had this thing called the sales order ID integer. You see that right there? All right, so that's why I'm typing the same thing over here pretty much. That's it. That's the only reason. After that, I will type as. And again, if you don't include the as, you're going to get a red squiggly. Okay? And it says incorrect syntax near in the file. So I'm just going to say here as. Now we define the body of the procedure. So I will say here select as an example. And because I've called this one get order summary, we must define what it means to summarize an order. That is obviously to some extent up to us, but I'll make it reasonable. So perhaps the max quantity, the min quantity, and then for example, what else I have here? The sum of the line total, like that. Let's take a look. What is the line total? So that its meaning is a little more clear, take a look. I'm going to type select star from sales order detail. Give that a run here for a second. And when you look at this quantity called the line total, it's right there. See that? It's a column. And if you look at it, look at the unit price and look at the order quantity. See that? Order quantity and the unit price, and it gives you the line total. You multiply them. Take a look at the next one. If you take the 3 from this cell and you multiply by the 2024.994, that will roughly give you the value in the line total. You see that? So according to this table, it looks as though the line total is simply the product or the result of multiplying the order quantity by the unit price. Let's just check it one more time though. So take the 2 over here, multiply by about 2040, and that's going to give you about 4080 more or less. Okay, so line total, order quantity multiplied by unit price. Simple enough. Sometimes some of the language they use is not the clearest. So we understand what that is. So I'm going to say the following. Go back to our procedure and I will say select sales order ID first. I'm going to choose that. And make sure when you enter this, you do not include the parameter there. The at symbol, in other words. Just sales order ID, the name of the field in the table. Put a comma. And because remember, we've called this construct get order summary. We've defined the word summary to have a specific meaning in our context. Okay? Obviously, other people could define some other information that they would include in the summary, so that's flexible, obviously. So the next stage here, I will say max order quantity. as max. And I'm doing this also again because I want to show you that you can perform all kinds of calculations inside these, and you can alias and so on. Next, I will type min, order qty as min, or minimum. If you want to write out the word, that's fine too, so that it's more clear. Maximum and minimum, nice. And let's also find the line total sum. So I'm going to say here sum of the line total. And if you think about that, does that make sense? Well, it does for the following reason. Remember, in the table, we have the line total and we have our order ID. So for example, for this first order right here, as a block of records, you should be able to get the line total for this block of records. You see that? It's a block of records, one order. So you should be able to get the everything, including the line total. So you can just add them up. That's why I can take that operation of addition on this field. And that's it, that's all it is. So I will say here sum line total as, and I'm gonna name it as follows. So let's say total value. And from there we want to use this at sales order ID parameter. So to do that, I will type this. I'm going to type the from, as usual, name of table with the schema. So sales order, and then detail. So this is code we have seen previously, except for this bit right here, which remember, create procedure we have seen, naming it in a reasonable way that indicates or that is expressive of the purpose of what we're creating. And the only really new bit, if you think about it carefully, is this, add sales order ID with the data type. We want that to appear somewhere in our code to make use of it. So let's take a look here. I'm going to do that with the where. So I'm going to say, for example, where, and then sales order ID equals, and here comes the connection to the parameter, the important step. At, and then you specify the parameter name, sales order ID, just like that. So this bit, which I'm about to enlarge to make it more clear, right here, this is the connection. So the sales order ID on the left side with the where clause, remember that's a field existing in a table, and the at sales order ID is the name of the parameter. And this is the connection to the outside world, so to speak, because with the parameter now, we'll be able to pass values into the body of the procedure so it can operate. All right, let me zoom back out here to about 200%. And pull this up just a little bit. And as you can see here, hover your mouse over that, it says, must be the only statement in the batch. So again, you need the go, and it goes away. So as you can see, the go actually is quite important. And at this point, let's give this a go. I'll leave it in this form. Remember, we have aggregate functions like max, min, and sum operating here. And all we have is a where, so we want to see whether this will take in this current form. All right, so give it a go, hit execute, and of course we get an error. And if you look to the right, it's the usual kind of error. Either something is not contained in an aggregate function or the group by clause is missing. We've seen that many times. And we even know how to fix it. So why don't you pause the video and give it a shot? Just fix it up a little. So as you might imagine, now we'll of course simply say group by the order ID. So group by sales order ID to be more exact. And that should work perfectly. So highlight all of it, give it a go. And take a look. Now there's another problem. There's already an object named getOrderSummary in the database. So now you have to learn something new to handle that situation. And here is how to do that. Take a look. Up top, after the go, type drop procedure getOrderSummary. like that. And immediately stuff gets underlined red. So just separate that out like that. And still that will not work. And the problem is, it must be the only statement in the batch. So at this point, you ask yourself, how can I fix that? Give it a shot. Think about it. And of course, I hope by now you know that we can simply type go and that's it. All right, so let's drop the procedure. So highlight that bit of code, hit execute, and it drops the procedure, removes it, and it's gone. So now down below, we can save it again. So I'm going to take this whole thing and hit it with the execute. And it says command completed successfully. That is what we want to see. Down below, you see that, you see? I'm emphasizing a lot of time here on the go because the go sometimes seems vague, and as you can see, there are real reasons for having it. But this is smart enough to also give you useful suggestions along the way. And if you look here, it says cannot drop the procedure because it does not exist or you do not have permission. Well, that's false, obviously. It does exist now. So I did Control-Shift-R to refresh everything, and the underlining has disappeared. All right. So remember, the key idea here is we're going to make use of the parameter. What use is it to us? In other words, take a look. So this time I'm going to invoke the procedure. I'm going to call it. I'm going to make use of it as follows. I will say get order summary. So you write the name of the procedure, then you type at, which is the parameter now you're going to type. You're going to type sales order ID, and then you set that equal to a value. So I'm going to say, because I know the data a little bit, I'll say 43659. And that roughly looks like this. I just make sure everything is now spelled correctly. So up here we had sales order ID, and down below sales order ID. And if you hover your mouse over it, it says incorrect syntax. Well, we got to try something. So I'm just going to type go. And as soon as I type go, the underlining goes away. So one more time, without the go, after the end of the procedure, it's underlined red. So put the go back in, and then it works quite nicely, as you can see. And now just run this, hit execute, and take a look at the output down below. What do we have? Well, we have the summary for a single order on the page. We have the order ID, the value I passed in. We've got the max number. We've got the min number of quantities. We've got the total value of the order. And obviously, this should be checkable in the sense that you should locate order 43659. You can, by inspection alone, find the maximum. By inspection alone of the order quantity field, you can find the minimum. And then on a calculator, if you sum the line total, it should also give you a value that looks like that one, and that's something different. That's how you can check. Remember, if you think about everything that we have done, we are adding, multiplying, subtracting, and dividing. That's it. No other operations really are involved if you think about it, regardless of how sophisticated it appears to be. So remember, the key is this, right? We've got this value, it's assigned to the parameter. When we call the procedure, that value is also, remember, the parameter is up here, so through the parameter, so to speak, it enters the body of the procedure, and it's used right there to run the where clause, to pick out only that sales order, for example. And to finish up this video, here's the assignment. What I want you to do is change the stored procedure so it takes the sum line total and shows it formatted as American currency. I'm going to leave it at that. Give it a shot. Okay, let's take a look here. So that implies several things that you have to take care of. First of all, you got to use the format function, and you got to use function nesting. All right, then we put down the comma, and then at the next stage here we will say between that C, and then at the next stage we will say EN and then US. And again, as before, you can alias everything, so it says as total. We take this and we try to create the procedure again because we've just modified it, remember? And if you try to do it, you're going to get an error. And of course, the error is that the old version of it has to be dropped first because there's already one named get order summary. So that doesn't work. So go back up top and do drop procedure get order summary. Execute it. Make sure you drop the old one, get rid of it. And now recreate this one with the formatting applied to the sum of the line total. Execute that. And now let's run it one more time. So hit execute. And when we do that, take a look here. We have the total nicely formatted as American currency. So making one small change, the point is you can either alter it as we did in the last video, or you can just use drop procedure, get rid of it, and then just recreate it and then run it. And don't forget the fundamental concept of what we have done here. Here's the fundamental concept. Remember, a parameter is essentially a placeholder through which a value can be passed into a stored procedure so that value can be used throughout the body of the stored procedure. So in our particular case, remember, throughout the body means the parameter value over here will be used to get the sales order ID. That's what I mean by used right there. Okay, I'm going to leave this here for a second. If you need to, friends, please pause, give it a type up. Okay, to call it, you do the line below. And lastly, here are all the notes for this lesson. And I'll see you in the next one.